What's up, Gamecock Nation? Tashawn Wanamaker here checking in, and you're about to hear the show presented by Express Suns Rooms of Columbia. Spurs up.
Here in Columbia, well, it's been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina! It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherbert.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning, and welcome aboard Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Phil Molinex, J.C. Sherbert, I am JB here until 1 o'clock this afternoon on the heels of the Nicholas Harbor commitment and signing yesterday for the Gamecocks. Plenty of that to come throughout the afternoon. We are live from the Signorama Columbia studios, although we're not in Columbia. It is Signorama Columbia, the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics, and they could be yours as well. Full-service company handling design, production, install, and service. They are Gamecock born and bred, if you want to say it that way. Alumni of the great University of South Carolina. Interior, exterior, vehicle graphics, you name it. Signorama Columbia, owned by our good friend Matt Vaughn. Make sure you check those guys out for anything that you may need. Check us out throughout the afternoon. Chris Phillips will be here at 11:30 this morning from the Spurs Up Show. We'll get his thoughts certainly on what happened and unfolded yesterday in a wild, dramatic scene for Carolina, finally reeling in not Lance Harbor, but Nick Harbor out of the D.C. area. And then at 12:20 today, Owen, Hale McGranahan, will join us and kind of give us his version of the story because he was covering it yesterday. And, guys, as we kind of get you in here, I found, no offense to Shane. Shane knows I appreciate everything he does, and he's really good at it. But I found the most fascinating part of the whole afternoon was the press conference with track coach Curtis Fry. I mean, it doesn't get more authentic than that. And he said some big, bold statements, and he threw out some names like, Usain Bolt and Carl Lewis. What? But, he was that's what
Randy Moss. Randy Moss.
Randy Moss. I mean, he was. And then at the end of it, he'd had enough. He said, I think I've talked enough. You guys have a good day. And he just mic drop.
Drop the mic.
It was some pretty neat stuff. But Carolina's certainly feeling good. And JC, I know you'll fill us in soon because a couple of crystal balls have now been put into the favor of the Gamecocks by Steve Wiltfong, and Carolina's 24 class could be increasing in size, literally, soon, and certainly moving up the ladder in the team rankings.
Absolutely. 2024, it's crazy because, they just kind of – now, look, I personally think they could add one or two more from the portal for 2024.
Sure.
But you kind of put a wrap on it, on the second signing day these days. And most of it's actually done high school-wise by the first one. But obviously, on a day where the media still focuses on signings, there's a handful of elite guys. South Carolina got the highest-rated guy. I mean, Duke the Duke of Wellington, whatever his name is, Duke Robinson from actually from Spencer Rattler's high school. Isn't Rattler from Pinnacle in Phoenix?
I don't know.
Tight end, Major League Baseball prospect, all that. I don't know that whoever signs him, and it looks like Georgia's going to add yet another big-time tight end to their roster. I don't know that he's ever going to go because I think he's a pretty high Major League draft pick. I'll probably ask Whittle about that because many times some of these football guys think they're highly rated baseball guys. And, Jamie, as you well know, some of them even get to college and don't make the team. I mean, people don't even realize that the college baseball coaches are in such a bad spot scholarship-wise. They don't always have room for the football guys, right? And so, looking at it like that, with Duke Robinson aside, South Carolina signed the highest-rated guy today. What Shane Beamer said in the press conference yesterday about him playing receiver, I think is a bit of a game changer as far as immediate expectations. I don't care how talented you are out of high school, you still have to develop. And I've beaten on that door for a long, long time because of NIL. People were scared. All the 5 stars are going to go to the people with money. Well, who cares? Because you give them money, they're not going to work hard. That much money, they're not going to work hard. A&M, Miami is a good example of that.
Phil Mullinax.
Yeah, that's right.
Phil Mullinax.
I'll take your bag.
We got to cut Phil. We got to cut Phil back, man. Got to cut Phil. He's not working hard enough.
That's right. I'll take all your money. And
he never responds to texts. He never responds to emails.
Yeah, right.
Half the time he's drunk.
Name, image, and likeness.
That's right. Hey, that picture of the baby smoking a pipe in the opener. That's me all the way.
I did because I love that. There's a hater's gonna hate that I wanted to use. It's a guy with a parrot on his shoulders. And he's got big long curly hair and a kind of a chubby face like me. And I had it as my Facebook profile back in the late 2000s. People thought that was me. Like they thought I was J.C. Sherbert. I had the hair. So I was looking for that. I couldn't find it, but the guy with the midair split, I was like, yes. And then I Google image search. I was like, that's Phil and that's Jamie. I was like, the little Leo DiCaprio to give the cheers to the haters and more to come, But when I was putting that together, but yeah, it's it was and then Muschamp's thing is like my wife doesn't like losers. Jamie actually put that together. That's hilarious. And I love the new opening. I thought the new opening was good. And John Thompson, one of our Data Sports chat boxers from the Pacific Northwest, says the new Mayor McCheese opening is awesome. I don't know how I found a Mayor McCheese landing on the moon, but it was great. I threw a little Spies Like Us in there for Phil. And then, one day when we were doing it before you joined the show, Jamie, I left the refrigerator door open. It was beeping. I didn't know what it was. Nat was on the chat box, and it was like, close the refrigerator door, clown. So the clowns, like that's kind of become a theme of the show as well. But anyway, back to Nick Harbor. I think him playing receiver his first year is a game changer because, like I said, you have to work. You're not guaranteed instant playing time, especially when you have players coming back on a good team, which I think South Carolina does. I'll say this. South Carolina does not have in its receiver collection, smorgasbord, whatever term you want to use, portfolio, if you will. They don't have anybody like him. They don't have anybody at 6'5". They don't have anybody that can run 6'5" and runs 4.3. I mean, they don't have anybody.
Nobody has that.
Nobody has that. And I think instead of throwing him into that tight end churn, because South Carolina has 6-7 tight ends, all of them are new. They all can do different things. They're all going to be asked to block in this offense. Shane's right. I don't have to ask him to block a 270-pound DN as part of what he's doing. Just put him out there, teach him to run a few routes and throw the ball to him. Hands, would he have what I would call elite hands? No, I don't think anybody's seen that from him. Is he a guy that's going to drop a bunch of passes or look like Edward Scissorhands out there? Probably not. I've seen him make some good catches. Plus, think about who's throwing him the ball. Spencer Rattler,
right.
The ball placement and stuff is amazing. I mean, and who's coaching him? I mean, people forget Josh Van led the SEC in drops in 2019. Justin Stepp coaches him up, 43 receptions in 2021, came back. And by the end of this past year, kind of started a little slow, clunky like the offense did. Josh Van was a weapon. I hate that he got hurt against Clemson because he was a guy that, especially early on in football games, would make tough plays, get things going momentum-wise, and all that. So Justin Stepp has a proven track record of teaching guys how to catch the ball well, kind of like Steve Spurrier Jr. did. Honest to God, if you'd put this guy with Steve Spurrier Jr., you'd have had Randy Moss probably. And I'm not saying that Stepp can't coach him up to that level. So I think that's a stroke of genius as far as how this commitment, and you're like, yeah, you got this great athlete. Where's he going to play? There's all these questions. What about track? Putting him at receiver changes that narrative. I think it changes the expectations. Now, is he going to catch 70 balls next year? I don't know, but I think he has a better shot to make an immediate impact with his speed, size combo, and the fact Carolina in its receiving core does not have a guy like that, then maybe if you stuck him at tight end and tried to, make him work and beat out 7 guys.
Well, Phil, I've got a question for you because when you and I were in the back office here before we came on, you were watching the Fry interview, and I want to ask you a question. I do want to throw this out there though. I think that to bring this home as to, because I've been asked already, golly, who do you compare this guy to? I don't compare him to anybody, but if I had to pull from the vault of Gamecock football, I would say as of now, we don't know anything, but as of now, he is a cross and how you could use him between, catch this, Busta Anderson and Troy Williamson, because Troy Williamson could flat out move, but he didn't run crisp routes. He was more of a rounded off route runner. That's why he didn't really go well in the NFL. He got drafted on intangibles and ability, but not on being an elite receiver. Busta Anderson, about every second or third ball he caught, he was in the end zone. And so, I see maybe a mix of those two guys with this young man. What I've heard, Jason, you probably heard the same thing. Dowell Loggins has been hard at work creating kind of this guy's plan because there's not a bunch of these guys out there. So you need to get it right when you get him on campus. You can't just have him sitting over there. He's not ready. He'll be ready. I don't know, maybe by the middle of the year.
Yeah.
No. That ain't the case here. You've got a dude of dudes. He's got a place. You got to figure out how to get him on the field. And from what I've heard, there's a reason why Dowell Loggins is at South Carolina, because this cat is a genius when it comes to matchups. He was an NFL coordinator. Phil, what stood out the most to you yesterday throughout the day? I mean, obviously we were on the air through the commitment, but as the day unfolded, we got all the quotes, we saw all the videos, what everybody said, Shane, Coach Fry, Harbor, and others. What stood out the most?
There were a couple things, Jamie, that we look at. I think that a lot of us, when we talk about players, especially younger, raw, recruits and things like that, we're real hesitant to compare them to greats, right? But Coach Fry just throws all caution to the wind and just starts dropping name after name after name, just with a confidence that is just incredible. I'm like, man, we're over here looking at him like a Jared Cook type usage, where he's not gonna be right tight against the line most of the time, but we'll be probably, out stretched out wide. But I mean, Randy Moss, Usain Bolt, geez, okay, Carl Lewis, drop them all, call them everybody. I couldn't believe it. One of the other, I loved when he threw the hat on and just flashed that smile, because it was like, you could tell there's a comfort level in that. It's just his confidence level when he made the pick. It's not like he felt like it didn't look like he was wavering last second, and this is something that he was agonizing over until the camera flipped on. And then beyond that, I mean, obviously the key to recruiting is not necessarily the recruiters or, the coaches that you have, but your dogs, because, Shane and Dawn with Champ and Boomer, I mean, those are obviously the two best recruiters in the athletic department. No, but what did stand out about me?
Somebody get Lamont a dog.
Right. Yeah. Somebody get Lamont a dog. Right. Yeah.
JC, where's Red?
Yeah. Right.
He's about to go on a 10-hour car ride, so he's
no, you're bringing him
drop
down.
Him off at Colonial Life Arena if you don't mind.
No, but I thought it was very telling the way Shane spoke about the in-home visit with Harbor and his family, the impression that Loggins made while there. He doubles down every chance he gets when referring to Dowell Loggins about the NFL situation. In the NFL exploits matchups. That's exactly what this guy's going to do with the correct personnel usage. It's basically just these daggers being thrown at what we've watched for the past 2 years. And quite frankly, I think it builds a lot of confidence until we actually see how Dowell's going to call plays on the field next year.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And, I think he's definitely a guy that, on the surface, people kind of maybe looked at, myself included. Now, look, I said this is not a hire that's easy to sit there and explain and all that. But, I guess there's a lot of emotion when you finally get to the end of a coaching search and then people settle in. And you always get the first press conference and everybody's like, well, he's going to be all right, Yeah. But I think the difference is this. Marcus Satterfield and Kurt Roper, and I'll include Kurt Roper in this because I'm convinced, because when I heard he was going to be the OC and not the person I thought who was going to be the OC when Muschamp was hired, I see there's a reason, folks. There's a reason I went to bat for the Muschamp era and all that. And, besides the fact he was a good recruiter and they definitely needed players. I mean, there was no question. But when I was told it was Roper, it's like, oh, he's got some brand new RPO plays he got from the Browns. It's going to be awesome. Well, I thought Kurt had once Jake took the job against teams they had a shot at even competing against, because that wasn't Clemson or Florida that year when Jake was the quarterback, but it was everybody else because their offensive line was bad. But I thought he called really good plays. I mean, I thought for having a freshman quarterback, freshman receiver, freshman running back, it was fine. But he was calling it based on his Duke and Florida experience. The next year, he decides to go with this NFL stuff. And that offense, despite having NFL talent, was very pedestrian. But he only spent a year up there, right? Marcus Satterfield, same thing. And Marcus, frankly, had not had a game where he was at Duke and lit up Texas A&M or anything like that. He was just kind of Matt Rule's offensive coordinator, which he is now. He spends 1 year up there and comes back and wants to run everything like they do in the pros, and that doesn't work. Well, here's the difference, okay? Dowell Loggins is not a guy that's like, oh, well, I flamed out at the NFL level. And look, he didn't have any successful offenses up there. I think he'd be the first to tell you that. But I think just reading between the lines, and from what I've heard, he and his family and everybody else made a conscious decision to say, this is a career change. Okay. It's kind of like me, although I had the big spur when I said, all right, I'm not doing national recruiting anymore. I'm going to go back and do local website stuff, maybe do a little radio. Had no idea I was going to start an NIL collective, but that's a different story. But I'm going to go local, okay? And that was my decision. 2015, made that decision. Haven't looked back since. That's what he's doing. He's not a guy that's going to sit there and have a great year at Carolina, kind of like Liam Cohen did at Kentucky, and Liam Cohen's back at Kentucky, by the way, and then just go right back to the NFL. He went. He's like, I need to learn the college game. He worked under James Franklin at Penn State for 2 or 3 months, and Mike Yurcich, their offensive coordinator, kind of learned some things there. Sam Pittman calls. He tight ends job at his alma mater, where he basically coached tight ends and was one of their best recruiters. NFL guys that are in that league for 20 years, it's surprising that anybody, if they're still of that mindset, guys, can come in and recruit at all. Because they're going into high schools, they're like, where the hell am I? You know, they're not calling the GM, giving them feedback on the film or anything. They're going hitting the road, hustling, trying to kiss butt and shake hands and kiss babies. Dowell Loggins has been outstanding at that, and he's committed, I think, to being successful in college. Now, will he end up as the head coach at Arkansas in a couple of years? Maybe. You know, that's probably his goal. But he's not. My point of all that is, he's not a guy that's like, well, I'm in the NFL. Like Steve Wilkes was the D coordinator at Missouri, for goodness sake. For a year, they were historically bad, except when they played Marcus Satterfield's offense in South Carolina. You know, and that didn't work out too well. You know why? Because he was coaching and approaching it like the NFL, and boom, he's back in the league, right? I guarantee you any franchise calls Marcus Satterfield and wants to hire him in the NFL, he's gone, right? That's his dream. I think the dream for Dowell Loggins is to become the best college football coach he can be. I think this was a conscious decision he made. I've heard, you know, that it wasn't a situation where he could not find a job in the NFL. You know, he would have been, somebody would have hired him. He'd been hired 5-6 times. And you know how they recycle coaches up there. But, you know, so that's the difference, okay? Is the offense going to be great? You know, or we're going to sit here and think, well, Dowell Loggins is the next Steve Spurrier or anything like that. I can't promise you that. I've never seen the guy call a play at this level. But I will say the approach is not going to be like it was where, you know, square peg, round hole, pro-style offense. It's not going to look anything like Adam Gase's offense, if anybody's worried about that. And I think so far so good. And it's not necessarily because I've ever seen him call a play or I think he's an offensive genius. I love the approach. And I love the fact that Shane Beamer really, if this works out, made a hire that's the best of both worlds. It's a okay, you know, you sold Spencer Rattler on playing in a pro style. We got a guy that's coached in the league 20 years, but you also don't have some of the overthinking, complex baggage that maybe Kurt Roper and Marcus Satterfield brought to the table. So that's the big difference with Dowell Loggins, and I'm thrilled to death that you know, he's been rocking and rolling on a plan for Nick Harbor, because I'm curious to see what he wants to do. Nana Sports chat box, by the way, who is the transfer from Tennessee? D'Angelo Gibbs. That's kind of news item number 2 from yesterday.
I would say so. I know we got to hit a timeout, but we can recap that when we get back. I texted JC last night, Phil, and I said, "Wait, what the hell just?"
He just said, "Wait,
wait,"
because I saw the release from Carolina, and I said, "Who is this guy?" And then, so, anyways, we'll get into that, and we do have Chris coming up, and then Hale at 12:20 today, and Hale was in. Hale always finds a way to make Shane laugh. Good for Hale. He always he tees him up. He's one of those guys. He eases in that strange little joke, and you have to kind of laugh at it. And then, okay, go ahead and say what you need to say. He's that guy.
That's Hale, man.
That's Hale. He's good at it. But so we'll certainly get his. Let him walk us through the afternoon as to what he was learning and kind of through the final moments of the chaos yesterday before the selection was made as to what he was learning. I'm sure JC already knows all this stuff. That'd be boring to him. But so we'll hit a timeout, and then we'll be right back.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Gamecock Nation, JB here, and I'm here to tell you about my new favorite painting company, A Couple of Painters. These guys are the best. Gamecock fans and excellent painters, and by far the best and easiest quote I've received. They're licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia. They offer 10% off for military, repeat customers, or if you heard it on the show. Commercial and residential painting, deck, fence, and cabin staining, cabinet and furniture refinishing. They'll even remove popcorn ceilings and wallpaper, and they offer pressure washing. Find them on Facebook or call 803-522-6832. A Couple of Painters, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
Oh, I feel that, man. My head hurts, but I have a good lead on a good idea. I'm calling your boy Matthew Odom today from Heritage Digital. Heritage Digital is an IT firm that specializes in making sure your IT network runs like a dream. If you have 1 or 500 employees, it doesn't matter. They do it all for one monthly fee and have clients from South Carolina all the way to California.
Yeah, I heard that monthly fee's low too, so I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Do you have 843-699-1001 as Matt's contact number?
Yeah, man, I sure do that. Or you can go to heritagedigital.com.
Man, I hear they do a no-cost assessment. Boy, this will help me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm getting on that and encouraging everyone else to do the same. Heritage Digital, 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com, a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
This is former All-American shortstop Drew Meyer, and you're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Go Gamecocks.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. We appreciate everyone joining us here in the Cinerama Columbia studios. The show is, of course, presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber and his team a call, 803-446-4662. He'll be happy to set up a no-obligation consultation for you about a potential outdoor retreat for your backyard. And the first hour of the show is brought to you by Cindy Searfoss and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the Upstate. Give Cindy a call, 864-414-5271, and she'll be happy to handle all of your Upstate residential real estate needs. So, yeah, we get that. But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the day.
Here's how I see this. You got nothing to lose. You got a dude who was a former 5-star like 8 years ago, but I mean he's like 25 years old. But I mean so he's either gonna come in, he's gonna beef up your scout team, which is gonna help your football team, or he's gonna be one of the feel-good stories of the year. I mean, unless he comes in and murders somebody, which I hope that doesn't happen. As long as he stays out of trouble, why not bring a guy like this in, right? He's a walk-on, right, JC?
Yeah, okay. So D'Angelo Gibbs got some more information on him last night because they kind of just tweeted him out in a picture of kids from Georgia, and I was like, I hadn't heard that name in a while. I want to temper expectations. This guy has never played like a 5-star at the college level. He's played very little. 13 games in 2 years as a backup and special teams guy at Georgia.
And that was the last decade.
Last decade. I don't think he saw the field at Tennessee. But I tried to go to Bethune-Cookman. That didn't work out. But what I was told was he has a connection with the staff.
Yeah.
Okay. With a certain member of the staff. They've had him in for a visit. Hale actually saw him. You can ask Hale the story. He actually saw him, I think, Tennessee or something. As a visitor, they didn't know that if he had eligibility or not, just because it's been that long, right? He did, and he's in, and he's eligible, so he's working. He's got to work to get back to the player maybe he was early in high school. I don't know the whole story, but I do know that things haven't always been easy for him. Since he got out of high school, and he's ready to work. My understanding is he's in the program, in the off-season program, the winter program, working his butt off. Looks good. Is really said doesn't say much. Just goes to work, brings his lunch pail. And what I was told was they don't know they're going to hash it out because both sides of the ball are kind of like, well, we'd like to have him. We'd like to have him, but we'd like to have him. So I don't know where he's going to play yet. Maybe I don't think he's a corner. I've never thought he was a corner. I thought that was part of the problem. People were projecting him as a corner. He was 220 pounds as a senior in high school with tight hips. I was like, y'all crazy. Y'all are crazy, because, and sometimes out of Georgia, you get some of those evaluations. But don't we
see that a lot at Georgia where they take these talented kids and they move them to the secondary? I mean, there's a kid playing running back here named Lavoisier Carroll. They did that to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not necessarily UGA. The state is a lot like Texas in the sense you get more complete products because the high school coaching is so good there. And the programs like Grayson, where he went, it's like a small college facilities wise. So guys they eat better, they lift more weights, that kind of thing. And he just grew. So long story short, he's there, he's working, and they're excited about the possibilities. I mean, there's nothing to lose. I mean, the kid comes in and plays special teams this year. Great. He helped. It didn't cost you scholarship or anything. All right, so we got to get to the
deal at South Carolina.
Yeah. McKellar Enterprises guest line. High energy Thursday, as we always have. Chris Phillips from the Spurs Up Show joins us. Always glad to get his take. And I guess we're ready for Chris, Phil.
Yeah, he's in there waiting. So lead us out here with a little break action, and then bring him back.
I want to take the break.
You want to take another break? Okay.
Yeah, I figured we would. We could just hit it, and then we'll just go on from there. Why not?
Okay. All right. So we'll take a break and then get back. High Energy Thursdays. Chris Phillips, always right here on the show after these messages.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Easy. He's got a tiger by the tail, he has.
He better hang on, too.
People have spoken. Nana's Porch was voted the third best food truck or trailer by the Charlotte newspaper Public Poll. Also, their pimento cheese took third in a contest exclusively for products made in the state of North Carolina. I will let Noah Hall tell you about the rest. Nana's Porch, Southern cuisine with an uptown twist.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
This is Coach O. Now back to the show. Go Tigers in the song.
Welcome back in, everybody. Inside the Gamecocks, the show is presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. We are joined now on the McKellar Enterprises guest line inside of the Sinorama Studios by none other than the host of the Spurs Up Show, Chris Phillips. Chris, big day yesterday, man. I think it exceeded expectations when you consider, the D'Angelo Gibbs thing, even though, we'll see how that plays out, right?
Yeah, it was a high energy Wednesday. Appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah. JB, welcome. Good to see your face as well. And of course, JC and Phil, as we normally do here. But yeah, what a day. What a day. What a victory that was, right? And, again, I was very pumped up. I'm sure most of you saw the video, but not just for 2023, but so far beyond. Just in my mind, what it means moving forward, right, for changing the perception, continuing to change the perception of South Carolina football and reeling in more guys like Nicholas Harbor in the future, right? So I just it's a great time to be a Gamecock fan, truly. And how could you not be excited about the direction of South Carolina football under Shane Beamer's leadership? That was a huge victory yesterday. Seeing Nick Harbor put on that Gamecock hat, man, was stuff like that just never gets old, right? We saw it with Clowney and now Nick Harbor. We've seen others as well, but landing a guy like that is just it'll just never get old, man. So great day to be a Gamecock for sure.
You know what I found interesting about the whole day, guys? This not one time did the name Spencer Rattler come up as it pertained to his recruiting. I mean, you talk about all these other guys that are signing here on the offensive side of the football, transfers, high school kids. Somebody somewhere generally brings up the name Spencer Rattler. Well, they want to play with Rattler. It never came. I mean, just like the NIL thing, it wasn't at the forefront. It was literally regardless of what the guy at the Maryland website says, he's wrong. It really was a relationship-based ordeal here, and playing with what I think. I say this. I don't want to say confidently because I'm not an expert, but I say it pretty proudly. I think Spencer Rattler has a great chance to be the best quarterback in this league next year. That's over the guys at Georgia and over the guys at Bama and over the kid at LSU and over the kid at Tennessee. Like, he is that good. But his name never came up yesterday with the top player left on the board. I just found that fascinating.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And I think when you think about the recruitment of Harbor, certainly I'm sure Rattler's presence at Carolina played into it. But no, relationships won out in the end. That's exactly how I thought too. I mean, I think you'd be naive to think that NIL had no part. But, we all heard yesterday morning what was going on with Oregon, and Beamer mentioned that, early in the morning he got that voice memo or that audio message from Nick Harbor. But, it was great to see again. I think relationships obviously did win out in the end. And, I'm sure the opportunity to play with Spencer Rattler was enticing for Nick. But, I think overwhelmingly more so to be a Gamecock and believing in what Beamer's building. And also, too, I thought the name that and I was critical of the hire, and many others were too. But how about Dowell Loggins? His role in getting a Nicholas Harbor there, and Nick Harbor believing enough again in Dowell to play in his offense that they're going to utilize his skill set and maximize him as a playmaker. So no, I mean I think a lot of people deserve credit, but it is interesting, right? Spencer Rattler, and I'm sure he probably prefers it too after the pressures that he dealt with at Oklahoma. I don't mind Spencer Rattler going under the radar a little bit, because if he can bottle up what he did those final 2 weeks of the regular season and do that throughout 2023. His play is going to take care of the headlines itself. We don't need any of the preseason hype or hoopla, but I agree with you. I think I think you can make a very strong argument he's at minimum the best quarterback in the SEC East. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Chris, I thought one of the most significant things yesterday, just from a instant impact thing, and I said this earlier, I want to get your take on it, was by the way, just to set the record straight for the Maryland people, okay, about the NIL thing. Maryland's NIL deal was probably dollars-wise better than South Carolina's. I know for a fact Oregon's was probably well and above what South Carolina will be able to do. So South Carolina, I do think there's some NIL stuff. As he could have gone anywhere and gotten NIL deals, but relationships did win out in the end. So that's the Maryland. That Maryland site was like Pravda, and it's our Maryland site. So I don't want to come down on Jeff too hard, because I've known Jeff for a long time. I don't know what the situation is with this story, who he was talking to. Yeah. But I mean, they reported South Carolina has the largest NIL deal on the table. That's not true, man. Trust me on that one. Trust me on that one. Okay.
Well, I think too, a guy like a Nick Harbor, his case, I mean, I think it shows too a self-confidence in Harbor himself.
Yeah.
Like,
bet on himself.
Money, it doesn't have to be the deciding factor, because he's like, dude, I'm going to run in the Olympics. I mean, you heard him say, right, when he put on the hat, that you're going to see me as the number one draft pick. Like, he's got goals far bigger than one NIL check. So I'm sure that was, even looking at it from his vantage point, that was a convenience for him that, I don't think he was a guy that he had to make the decision based off of just purely money, right? He's like, let me go somewhere where, I feel comfortable. Again, my skill set's going to be maximized. Hey, from the football side, he wants to be the number 1 overall draft pick. What a great place to do it in the SEC, right? That was something South Carolina had the leg up on as well. He's not a guy that he's not thinking about the NIL check. He's thinking about the NFL check, right? And further down the road. So, that's you like in this NIL driven world. It was nice to see that win out in the end. And again, relationships, like we mentioned, and other things. And obviously, we all embrace NIL, but I think again, Nick Harbor had the luxury of a guy that he can bet on himself, and he could just take that out of it, if you will, as much as you possibly can, and make the best decision for him. And thankfully, that was South Carolina.
Well, and let's not forget Sterling Lucas and all this, and Jody Wright. Yeah. This was a major team effort for South Carolina
in their first recruiting cycle here, by the way. And when Sterling came back from the NFL, he had never recruited before. See, sometimes sometimes these guys that haven't recruited before, they get into it. They have a knack for it, and they're hungry. They want to prove it. And I think that's big.
Yeah.
And
Curtis Fry too, who was legendary in the presser yesterday. So
Curtis Fry, it was great.
Comparing Nick Harbor to Randy Moss, I was like, all right, here we go.
I don't think people know what happened yesterday. Like the track team at Carolina is about to blow up.
Really good. Right. I mean, I think Harbor.
They're watching track this year.
I saw Colin Taylor from Gamecock Central actually tweeted something. It was some kind of whatever the 6-second sprint is. The fastest time in the SEC last year. Nick Harbor ran that just in like a normal old meet up in DC, like it was nothing. Like that's his average time. But get back to what I said. I thought what Beamer said, what excited or made me kind of raise my expectations a little bit for Nick's first year is they're going to play with receiver. Yeah. I think that's brilliant because, and I mentioned earlier, Chris, that is something at receiver they don't have. And people may say, all right, whatever, Captain Obvious. Nobody has a 6'5" guy that runs 4.4. But, South Carolina doesn't really have a whole lot of those 6'5" taller guys, that are the bigger targets. They have big-bodied guys like Xavier Legette. Kylie Horton could be that guy. But you look, and, most of these guys are like 5'11", 6'1". They got good speed, run good routes. This guy is like he could do T. Higgins type stuff. If he comes in and works hard. And I think Justin Stepp is very good at teaching guys to catch the ball well. If you look at what he did with Josh Vann. So, your take on that, because I think whereas sticking him at tight end, I have a lot of questions about first-year impact. Receiver, that's a different story. It's a different story.
It's hard not to be giddy about it, right? I mean, like you mentioned, there's just not a lot of guys that are built the way he is and are as fast as he is. I mean, you just don't get that combo. You want to keep somewhat realistic expectations for his freshman year. He's still a freshman, but he's just not your typical freshman, man. I mean, again, it's hard not to get carried away and overexcited. I can't wait, man. I'm pumped again to hear that comment. Like you said, Shane, we were saying they're going to use him at the wide receiver position. I think especially after, and I'm really not trying to say this as a slight, but I feel like Nicholas Harbor is going to be what we hoped Jaheim Bell was going to be, if not better than that, right? In the sense of just a dude that can hurt you in a multitude of ways, going to use crazy athleticism, and I think we'd agree he's a different type of athlete than anybody South Carolina's had in quite a while on the offensive side. And again, that wasn't a slight at Jaheim, but I think we all had this picture in our head, right, of this dynamic playmaker and this mismatch for defenses. And like, I think Harbor is going to embody that. I definitely loved hearing Beamer again saying like he's not going to be a hand in the dirt guy. I was like, thank God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want to hear about his blocking.
Right. He's not getting.
Like Spurs said, we didn't recruit him to block.
Right.
We didn't recruit him to block.
He's not going number 1 overall to put his hand in the dirt, right? If he wants to do that. So, another huge weapon for Rattler though, man. It's hard not to be giddy about it.
I just have a little vision too. They like to run that little end around reverse.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that dude on a reverse if he has any space at all, cutting it upfield? And everybody's trying to catch him. That's called touchdown. I see. Everybody's like, "What's he going to play? Touchdown if he's on offense." That's called touchdown.
I mean, we were already talking about this. Just looking at the 2023 season, I mean, we were already talking about this being a 8, 9, potentially double-digit win team, and I wasn't factoring in Nicholas Harbor on offense. You know what I mean? So I don't want to sit here and say as a freshman he's going to have a 1,000-yard receiving season, but I think he's going to make an impact. Like, I think he's going to be in the rotation immediately, especially when you think about the wide receiver room and the battle there. We know Juice is number 1. I like Leggett in the 2 spot. I'd like to see him be a little bit more consistent and use the second half of 2022 to sort of vault into that. But beyond that, I mean, it's pretty wide open. You got some capable bodies, but I think Nicholas Harbor is going to be able to, at worst be in that 4 spot and catch some significant passes this fall.
Yeah, you got to cover Juice Wells and Nicholas Harbor.
Right. And good luck.
Can I throw another name into this?
Yeah.
Trey
Knox. Yeah.
Trey Knox, a tight end, and Amarian Brown can fly still. Yeah. I mean, that dude.
And we're forgetting about Xavier Leggett. As long as he puts the glue, as long as he puts the glue on his gloves and the ball.
Yeah. I mean, it's that was now that I know he's playing receiver. To me, that makes the commitment was huge anyway, but that makes the commitment as it relates to this coming season even bigger. So we got a surprise last night with D'Angelo Gibbs. Now, I reported this. They don't know what side of the ball he's going to play. He's working his way back. My understanding is he's looked good in winter workouts. He's a walk-on, not a scholarship guy. Chris, to me, I think that's a low-risk, high reward kind of decision to let him in the building. He's been doing a good job so far, has some connections to a member of the staff. And man, here's a former 5-star. Now, in full disclosure, I thought he was overrated. That wasn't a guy that I was extremely high on out of high school, but still there was something about him that a lot of teams liked and loved. And he's just got to work his way back. He's an older player now. Sometimes guys turn it around later in life, right? So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going to say he's like our version of Stetson Bennett, right? He's like 25 years old, still in college or whatever. Like you said, though, low risk, high reward. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know a ton about the guy, but it was funny how that just sort of slipped under the radar. And Gamecocks football throws up the graphic, and you're like, oh, here's this dude who's been at Georgia and Tennessee before. So, I mean, how can you not trust Shane Beamer, right? If he identified it as a guy that can potentially help them, even if it's just providing depth, man, heck, I don't know. I mean, what role will he have? We'll see. But like you said, low risk, high reward. Why not? I mean, if you got the room for him, and it's an SEC body, right? You're trying to build a roster full of SEC athletes. He obviously, again, like you mentioned on the recruiting trail, and he went to Georgia and Tennessee. So, I see no issue with it at all. And who knows? Maybe he can, crack starting lineup and make an impact finally. I'm sure he's got a chip on his shoulder. I'd imagine it'd be hard for him not to have one at this point. So.
Yeah. He's about 25 years old, so he's
right.
He's probably on Medicaid,
Social Security.
I don't want to take a shot at this kid. I'm excited to see again, like we mentioned earlier. I mean, he either becomes one of the feel-good stories of the year, or he's a guy that just shows up to help you on the scout team. Or JC, you mentioned it, and this might very well be the case. Even though last year your horrible use of misjudgment and questioning the special teams before the season started. My God,
I just got paranoid. I got paranoid. I was like, every year I do it this year. 10 days before, I'll be like,
it'll happen again, right?
I've been bringing that offense defense since spring, so I'm like, all right, I think it to death, because I get so excited, and then 10 days, it's almost like. If you pack for a trip and you're like, did I pack my underwear? Oh my God. Or you leave the house and you're like, did I lock the door? And so, every year I'll get like that, with both kickers coming back next year, I probably won't get as weird about it, but yeah. So, anyway.
Well, what about all the other stuff? I mean, they scored like half the touchdowns the team had this season. I mean, these cats are pretty good.
The holder, man, is Hunter Rogers back? Is it the holder back? Is it Hunter Rogers? That's his name.
Yeah, I thought he got put on scholarship. I think he got put on scholarship.
Yeah, he's back.
Right. Yeah, well,
somebody did transfer though. Who transferred?
It was the backup long snapper, Matthew Bailey, I think.
Yeah,
he was the backup long snapper. But man. Save him. I mean, he scored 2 touchdowns. He scored as many touchdowns as Rashad Amos last year. Well, anyway, that's probably not a good thing.
But we need to add context to that, though.
Yeah, I was trying to think of someone that was maybe you think would have more than 2. But anyway, all right, we're wrapping up with Chris Phillips from the Spurs Up Show. He joins us each and every Thursday. I look at the guys they signed yesterday, and I felt good about the first Saturday. I feel better now. And I'll say this too, with the Gibbs out of nowhere and the Harbor thing. Elijah Caldwell could be a forgotten man. I don't count out guys from Rock Hill. I thought, he looked really, really good. There's a reason West Virginia, which throws it all over the yard, wanted him. Your thoughts on him while we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it was Beamer that said Lenora Sellers was really high on him too, right? The quarterback they got. So, yeah, it was interesting. I was glad Beamer highlighted him on social media, by the way. He put out a tweet about Elijah Caldwell's ceremony and everything, and I do agree with you. I think that's an under-the-radar signing. But, going into the Nicholas Harbor announcement in regards to the 2023 class, I think we had a cautious optimism that Nick Harbor was a Gamecock, and then yesterday morning happened, and I just made the point that no matter what happens, I think the 2023 class was very successful, impactful. You look at the guys they signed across the line of scrimmage, and that to me, we've talked about it before, JC and guys, that, laying the foundation. I feel like that's kind of what that class did in regards to up front. You got some nice pieces, playmakers as well. But, yeah, I think Caldwell could be like one of those sneaky guys, and forever, 2-3 years from now, we might be talking about, hey, remember the forgotten guy on signing day a couple of years ago because it was the same day as the Nick Harbor announcement? Yeah, he turned out to be like one of the best receivers that South Carolina's ever had. So it's kind of funny how sometimes that works out, right? And so Caldwell will come in with low pressure because he was signing the same day as Nick was.
Dude,
but
DQ Smith, man, DQ Smith was a signing day flip from Georgia Southern as a quarterback, and then they suddenly had room to bring him in August, and then God, I watched his Gator Bowl. Pick 6 the other day, man. That kid's really good. So, Chris, we really appreciate it, man. Go ahead.
Nope, you're good. Yep.
Okay, really appreciate it, Chris. Sorry, I will not be on with you today, but we'll redo that tomorrow. Like I said, I gotta go to a funeral. Got to hit the road. We're driving to South Carolina, so that's going to be a lot of fun with the dog and all that. So, but I got to hit the road so I don't fall asleep on that stretch of I-40 between Knoxville and Asheville and all that good stuff. But really appreciate you joining us, Ben. Looking forward to next week.
No, absolutely, man. I appreciate you, JC, JB, Phil, and safe travels, JC. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm.
And so we don't need to hit another break, do we?
No. That's why I took it early.
By the way,
the chat box a little upset with me.
I want to say the other guy in the chat, but he's new.
No,
Chris comes on when we have an 11:30 guest that has to go at 11:50. We'll hit 2 quick breaks, but our breaks are not. Our breaks are not egregiously long, so but that's just when we have an 11:30 guest. So anyway, wanted to point that out.
We got to pay the bills around here somehow, or else you'll all just be on this chat box talking to yourself every day for 2 hours. Which, who knows? You might enjoy that more. John, real quick in the chat box, can y'all see comments and questions from the Facebook page? Yes, we can. John, you can comment from the Facebook page, and Phil will pop you right in and make you famous. You and your. By the way,
we're on a new we're on a new Facebook channel. It's an old Facebook channel, but we're on the Big Spurs Facebook channel, the 24/7 Sports. So I believe, Phil, our Facebook audience grew a little bit yesterday, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a lot bigger on Facebook now than it used to be. That's for sure. Welcome in everybody that's new. Happy to have you. Polish up your profile pics because we're going to make you famous.
Yeah, we'll make you famous here. Joey Mazio Benedict says he's going to announce tomorrow at noon. That's true. I will certainly, when it comes to recruiting, we lean on JC. But let's just put it this way: I'll take the words out of your mouth, JC. Everybody should feel really, really good about tomorrow.
Everybody at Greenville High, by the way.
Yeah.
Including Blake Franks. I think Carolina's got to put in a crystal ball prediction today for the Gamecocks. By the way, Reagan said, how many former 5-star recruits are on the Gamecock football team currently? So with Gibbs, Rattler, you got Gibbs, Rattler, and Harbor. And that's it, because Birch and Pickens are gone.
Yeah, Birch and Pickens are gone. Yeah. So
Gibbs, Rattler, Harbor.
Who would we reclassify as 5-star? Juice, and I'll tell you too. I want to make sure that we're not forgetting these guys because they are kind of, with what's been going on. Juice coming back, that was a big deal. The whole Rattler Wells thing, and then it was kind of all eyes on what's going to happen with Nick Harbor, and we did mention Trey Knox earlier today, but I'm going to tell you what. Don't forget about the kid who's coming in from Memphis, Eddie Lewis at all. He is going to come play at South Carolina. And I'll tell you, too, you better circle the name Josh Simon, the transfer from Western Kentucky. Just mark my words. When he gets to school, you're going to hear his name, and you're going to see the back of his jersey running down the field. He's good. He's from Dalzell. It means something for him to be home. He's a talented kid. Yeah. You're going to really like him.
Mackey Award nominee, and also Mackey Award nominee or finalist or semifinalist, something like that at Western Kentucky. Also, his stats aren't going to blow you away receptions-wise. He played an air raid offense. Keep in mind, Western Kentucky is that true air raid, the Mike Leach style. I mean, they can catch 18 passes in that system as a tight end's good. Had a little scoop about him the other day. There was some talk he may play receiver, kind of like Harbor's going to do. And maybe if Harbor hadn't come, that'd have been the plan. But he's definitely going to be like a tight end that moves around and guys like that. And I think everybody's going to be really happy with him and Knox both. And really the kid they got from Florida and then the young guys coming in too, those guys are pretty good blockers. So I think hats off to Jody Wright, Dowell Loggins, and everybody else for retooling that room very quick.
Retool. I'll retool you. Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that's going to be the most fascinating, this is going to be offensively, probably going back to when Marcus arrived at South Carolina for that first spring practice or that first practice set time, whenever it was. My head is all muddied with this stuff now, but because you have Coach Loggins being here is the NFL is all about matchups, right? So you have a system in the NFL, but within that system, you're supposed to figure out matchups to be able to produce every game. Well, they've gone out in addition to the guys that they're going to, of course, return, and they found a bunch of dudes that you got to figure out where to kind of fit them. Because, like, people look at the roster and they go, oh, my God, we signed 7 tight ends. Just hold on. You know, this isn't your classic 2 tight end set where they're 6'6", 280 pounds, and they're just going to line up and knock the crap out of somebody. Like, they're trying to figure out matchups with these guys, and you got a quarterback who can do it, and Spencer Rattler, and you've got an offensive coordinator who's, kind of spent a decade doing it. So, I think spring practice with this new group, guys, all these tight end, wide receiver, flex type guys, and keep an eye on Mario Anderson as well. A bunch of dudes we just don't know a lot about. We're going to be finding out a lot about what their role is going to be at Carolina.
Absolutely. Michael Ray from the chat box says, can you give me more details? Why didn't he play at Tennessee? Gibbs wasn't good enough. And has had some things that have kind of held him back in his career that they're, the Carolina's coaches are comfortable with trying to work it through. I'll say this, though, before everybody's like, whoa, why'd they bring this guy in because he didn't play here? Keep in mind he's a walk-on. It's low risk, high reward. I mean, literally he's the type of guy you'd want to have walk on and all that good stuff. James is preaching the gospel in the chat box now. Amen.
I'm with you. Go for it.
Tiffany asked if I'm wearing furs. It's my rat tail over here is like chilling, right?
No, the question is, are you wearing boots with the furs?
Boots, yeah, boots and tight jeans and furs.
Right.
I got a slide tie and a black shirt.
Feels like, speaking of apple bottom jeans. Right. Check this out.
Lance says he's partying. Like it's dangerous when Lance parties.
I think Lance drinks a lot. I really like this guy, and I'd like to meet him.
He loves the lattes. Lance Player too. His name's Lance Player. Yeah. That's his real name too. He's a Carolina Rise member. Lance Player.
He needs to be Playa from here on out. The Gibbs the Gibbs stuff will be intriguing just because he's of his history. But I'm glad that yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's I'm glad to know that that he's back on 2 feet. Which, speaking of which, if you want to be on 2 wheels, you can head to Electric Bikes of Charleston, and that's how you'll do it. Electric Bikes Charleston.com. Ovington, Velotric, Magnum electric bikes. If you've never seen an electric bike, and I'm going to raise my hand, until recently I didn't do enough research. Oh my God, these things are awesome. Like it's not just because they're one of our partners. They are awesome. 28 miles an hour. You'll be as fast as Nick Harbor. You might be able to run as far as Nick Harbor as well because they can go about 60 miles and you don't have to slow down if you don't want to. But unlike JC and I'm not going to put Phil in this category because he looks buff and in shape. JC and I would probably kick the pedal assist in and we just ride around and have our beer. The rest of you, if you actually want to ride the thing and you go 25 or 30 miles and you go, son of a, I can't get home, you just kick it into pedal assist and it will get you home. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. They service the whole state of South Carolina. Gamecock alumni owned, proud supporters of Gamecock athletics. And I can tell you, Michelle is as sweet as they come. So ElectricBikesCharleston.com. If for nothing else, go to the website and just familiarize yourself with their products. They're the best in the state. And somebody you know might have a birthday coming up or an anniversary. You might starting already to plan for next year's holiday season. If you're a budgeter like we are in this house. ElectricBikesCharleston.com, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
All right. I was going to leave up more kind of sports chat box, all that good stuff. We're coming right back. Somebody remembers me from college. Wow.
Uh-oh. Oh, my. Hold on.
From bar around.
Place on the green. That would be Tavern on the Green.
Yes, that would be Tavern.
It was right across the hall.
Oh, no.
I proudly remember those days. Well.
Yeah. A bar across the hall. They love to jam Pink Floyd.
All right. Into the hour.
See y'all after.
Hale's coming up. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. The home of Ovington, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Low Country. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show. The real estate market has changed dramatically from just a year ago. Rates, supply, demand, all of your traditional factors are in a transition phase. That's why if you or someone you know are considering making a move in the Low Country, contact me, JB, at Coast to Coast Realty. I work with an outstanding support cast of attorneys, lenders, inspectors, insurance agents, and more, all of whom are valuable in helping find a way for you to comfortably make your real estate decision. That's right, call me, JB, your Low Country real estate broadcaster. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
You're tuned into Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Sideline is picked off. Brad Edwards will get a convoy. Touchdown, South Carolina.
Spurs, Spurs, Spurs. You ain't just a bird, bird, bird. You're top of the coop, star of the show. You're a rooster who was born to crow. Well, I bet you wonder when you win or lost a step or two. Fell down the pecking order, couldn't fight like you used to do.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. We are broadcasting from the virtual Cinerama of Columbia Studios, seeing as how we're all in different places, not in Columbia. The show is brought to you by Express Hunt Rooms in Columbia. Give John Barber and his team a call to talk about a potential patio or porch enclosure for your home, 803-446-4662. And, of course, we have not really incorporated a second-hour sponsor, so my brain just goes into the cadence of doing another spot right here into the lead-in. I tell you what, though, guys, when we had 4 people on, so anytime we have a guest it's going to be hard for me not to like do this and look at everybody in the boxes, like, Brady Bunch style. And then if we have 5, like I got to, I call dibs on the Joan Rivers Center Square.
Is JC okay? He didn't like that joke.
No, there's something. The Clemson Twitter loserville idiot morons. They're kind of going after our boy a little bit.
Our boy,
our guy, our guest that was on just now. And if you're a Gamecock fan and you're involved in this trash, don't listen to the show. You're about to be blocked from our email account. I think you're the lowest life form on the planet because you're engaging in cancel culture with some psychotic people that would do the same to you. And I just think that's completely wrong. So Josh Kidd or whatever your name is here, you're a loser. Miley Strings or whatever your name is, you're a loser. You're all about to be blocked. I don't engage in cancel culture. You can come after me all you want and try to cancel me. Good freaking luck. And the Clemson Twitter people that do this are psychotic. And I think it's probably one or two guys that create all these accounts. I've already cleaned it up and blocked everything. So
where was
it? Jamie Harlan, you're out too. I'm sorry. I know you're a Gamecock. You're freaking gone. Go pull for the Charlotte Hornets. That's probably telling right there. So you're blocked as well. You go through these people's accounts.
Popped up on Twitter the other day. I was like, I would judge you more about which team you pull for as opposed to,
I must be I must be missing all this. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
It's on Twitter anyway. I didn't mean to get stuck. I just looked and there's like 15 different there's screenshots and stuff like that, and it's just like what weird. By the way, Tristan's gonna start calling you Uncle. Because you'll like Uncle Phil.
Oh.
Phil.
I'd be a fun uncle to have. Sit around, play cards.
Yeah.
Robert asked if Hardy will be in next year's class or will it take him longer to get there. He tweeted something about December of 2024. So.
Do what now?
Xavier Hardy. I'm sorry. Xavier Hardy, four-star D tackle. He signed with East Mississippi Junior College instead of Carolina. Just didn't have the grades to get in. It's kind of one of those things where he changed schools. Really good player, though. He's going to go to East Mississippi, and he said he'd be back December of 2024, which to me means it won't be this. It'll be 2 years from now. So his first game will be in what is it? The Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Virginia Tech in 2025. So there you go.
That's going to be wow. That's going to be something.
Maybe we'll be fortunate enough to end our season there next year.
Yeah, well, I would say that. Can I ask you? You mentioned Clemson. I want to ask you something about what Coach Sweeney said yesterday. Because I don't disagree with him, actually. I think he might be onto something here. He said in his press conference with Garrett Riley that he would be interested in moving the high school signing day or period up to August the 1st. And his reason for that was so it would protect high school kids, because there are a lot of high school kids, and I'll trust his judgment on this because, he does it every day, whether people like Dabo or not. Let's have a real conversation about this. There are a lot of high school kids that are committing to programs, and then they have to wait and sign in December. And then as the time goes on, once the transfer portal opens up, there are schools across the country who are electing to sign a transfer to come in and basically fill the role of where that high school kid would be. And it almost is pushing him out. So I don't know if he's right or wrong. I do think there's an issue with the timeline and all of this. I think the signing periods, there are things that need to be adjusted. These coaches, I know, JC, how many coaches? December, which is supposed to be your favorite month of the year with Christmas.
Those guys,
it's a nightmare. I mean,
didn't pay me enough. Yeah,
there's got to be a way to change this. I want to get y'all's thoughts on what he said. Hey, look, if a kid wants to sign in August when the season starts, let him sign. Why not? It protects him. And in a way, it probably protects schools, because if you're signing kids down the road, you're probably going to have less transfers in the portal because teams are already full of players.
I think the answer is 3, and I agree with that. But I've always said that when they were talking about an early signing period, because so much is done in the summer now, and kids a lot of times they don't get to enjoy their senior year of high school. And you're right, some guys do get pushed up, but you don't get to enjoy your senior year of high school because you got all this recruiting going on. You're trying to keep your grades up. You're trying to decide. You're trying to play that senior year and win a championship or spend that last hurrah with your teammates or whatever, and all that. And so I think, and I've always thought August 1st would be great because, then coaches don't have to worry about recruiting for a while until the season starts, and the kids can go practice, and you're not worried about it. So I think it's 3 things. I think it's, if you want to fix it, do what Dabo said, have a early signing period in August, You have to have an easy and quick change of circumstance because right now you still have to appeal to get out of your national letter of intent, right?
Right.
That protects everybody. You have to have a quick and easy appeals process if there's a coaching change. And you'd probably have to limit it to, unfortunately, just a head coaching change. Unless there was something real dramatic, like you're running triple option, your triple option quarterback, and then they bring it and go air raid. And change coordinators. But that's something I think in that rare circumstance, the school and the student athlete can work that out, get a release, whatever. So you have to have a quick and easy process for coaching changes. I also think that would keep a lot of coaches from getting fired in week 2 because I think this is wrong. I think it's kind of dumb because, you go through the interim period or whatever, it lasts 9 weeks, and then you don't hire that guy. I think it's kind of one of those situations where, you think one thing, but the reality is different because of the early signing period. They're like, we got to change because the early signing and all that, get a guy in place. Well, most of the guys you want to hire have jobs anyway. They're not coming until later. And so, I think that would probably prevent the narrative of getting guys fired early, though. At the same time, it also may tell us that it's not because of anything to do with recruiting. It's because fans are pissed off and you want to pop the balloon, so to speak. And everybody takes a sigh of relief. Oh, he's fired, And so then I think you also need to keep the early enrollee thing like it was, where they didn't sign, they just enrolled. Back when they had traditional signing day, you just enrolled. And then protect the one we just had for those that A, don't want to sign in August, and B, are on the market because of coaching changes, and then C, late bloomers. And Dabo's missing that point, okay? Dabo's missing that point. Because you're going to cut the late bloomers out, and there are a ton of them. Well, I think we'll see that in the NFL in a few years, where some guys come out of nowhere that were forgotten because they blew up their senior year and had no options, but Presbyterian or whatever.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'll have to go back and read it again. I don't want to misquote what he said because I don't think he was saying eliminate the February signing period. I think what he was saying was give yourself a period in August where you can sign, and then you've got another one coming up a few months later, which would be basically 6 months later, right, in February.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do that.
Yeah. Now, but as it pertains to transfers, like, again, I don't know what the solution is, but my personal feelings on transfers or the transfer timeline is I'd like to find a way for them to make that happen after the completion of the season. Like, I'm not just for South Carolina because it really affected them in the bowl game, but I'm sick and tired of kids, quote unquote, opting out or entering the transfer portal and not finishing their season. And I don't care about this crap that says, well, you got to do what's best for you. Yeah, well, you know what? You also have 99 other guys in that locker room that you committed to. Those are your, quote, brothers, but they're brothers enough where you can just tell them they're brothers on social media and then haul ass and never see them again. Like, we've got to how in the world did they play football for 100 years where these guys played through all these bowl games and stuff? And, they weren't all getting injured. I know injuries and things like that happen. I know that transfers want to happen, but I don't buy all this crap. It's just a load of crap is what it is. And so, somebody's got to put a stop to it and make sure that these guys finish. If you want to transfer, fine, but do it the way Zach Pickens did it. He finished the season, or not transfer. If you want to transfer, if you want to go to the NFL draft, whatever it is, fine. But we need to figure out how we can encourage these guys or force them to finish the season.
Well, the bowl games, I don't think you're going to prevent the NFL draft guys just because that's such a prevailing narrative out there. And I knew it when Leonard Fournette did it. Everybody made a big deal, and you could see the national media going.
There's not any truth to it, though. Like what these kids say, there's no truth to what they're saying. It's a lie.
Yeah. Now the portal, I wouldn't. The problem you're going to run into is if a kid like plays for Georgia, but see these guys. Like the kids are not leaving Georgia before the playoff anyway. It's the start of the next semester. Now, that's a tight window, but it's still 7 days. And I would think that would work. You know, like Carolina's in the Gator Bowl the 30th. You know, school starts at Florida State or wherever on the 10th of January. That's plenty of time if you want to transfer. And if you're planning on transferring anyway, you should already kind of have an idea about where you're going. And then extend it a little longer into January. Maybe cut it all off at the same time. National Signing Day, National Transfer Portal closes day. So that's the thing there. I mean, you know, I think there are a lot of solutions out there to take because December this year, guys, was crazy. It was crazy for us, crazy for coaches. I mean, I don't know how they did it.
I don't know. And you got to think about the kids' perspective too, because as we've seen and you know, part of this wild west NIL experience that we have with an open transfer portal is, I think there's a direct proportion between the amount of money available to players and the amount of delusional advice givers that these kids have in their ears chirping at them about, overinflating their worth and saying that they can get more than they're worth with the, sole purpose of taking advantage of them in some instances by, maybe shady agents and things of that nature. I'm not saying everybody in the industry is, but let's face it. I mean, if there's money to be had, there's going to be shady dealings. So it's like any restrictions you can put on that, whether it be, time limits or, briefer periods of time, more confined spaces in which to operate, then they'll have less of that negative influence going on about.
Yeah, well, and I see Carlton's comment here. He says, I don't agree. These coaches get paid a lot of money. They need to adjust and manage the transfer portal. Well, they have. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. Coaches can leave whenever they want, when they want. True and not true. Here's the difference. People miss this all the time. I cannot believe that this is not more of a conversation about this. You know what the difference is? Coaches have contracts. If they break that contract, they owe somebody something. Either the school that they're leaving to go to has to pay to buy them out of that contract, or they're going to have to do it themselves. When these players leave, they don't owe anybody a damn thing. Those are apples and oranges. It's not apples to apples. So if coaches could just enter the transfer portal and all of a sudden Dowell Loggins is just up coaching at North Carolina tomorrow and it's everybody be pissed, right? Well, doesn't he owe us some money back or something like that? Well, when you sign a kid out of DC and you bring them in on scholarship, you realize these schools are committing about $200,000 worth of stuff to these cats. When it comes to tuition and room and board and books and meals and all the stipends and all the stuff they get, that's a lot of money. And then they just get to wake up one day and ghost you like Marshawn did. Nothing, no strings attached, no contract that says you owe something back. You didn't finish your career, you didn't finish your education, you didn't honor your commitment to your teammates. Nothing. You're gone. Well, that can't happen with coaches. So it's not an apples to apples conversation. It's apples and oranges because there's one word called a contract that's in there for coaches.
Agreed completely there. And it's, it's almost like people have swung to the extreme and, they're just kids. Let them go wherever they want or whatever, anytime, and then pay them all this money and do all that. Well, you probably need to think about this for a second. If you're in favor of players getting paid, you should, then you can't really have free transfer whenever you want. Because that's not how the real world operates. You don't get paid, but even NFL players have contracts. So
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
too,
look,
I mean, look at Sean Payton. I mean, they're having to strike a deal on the back end with New Orleans to get him in Denver.
Yeah,
there's so many
NFL
strings
itself
attached to these guys. I mean, that's the real
yeah.
world.
If you're gonna get paid, that's the real world. There's and I've got to run, but 76. Don't believe everything you hear about Corey Miller. Okay, he's a good guy, good Gamecock. And he's helping with a lot of things right now that you would really enjoy and be interested in. I've talked to him daily about Heaven Brown Schuler. He can't make the kid go someplace. Okay. And honest to God, if you want to talk about him in recruiting, the former staff completely screwed up, not taking his son. And you're probably lucky he even talks to anybody at Carolina anymore. So I'll just bury that right now. I know there's BS rumors out there. Certain people try to repeat about him and have in the chat box. Well, let's just say, those are rumors. And that's all I'll say about that. Not trying to be ugly to anybody, but I'm not going to sit here and have people just trash this guy for no reason based on rumors and speculation, or maybe somebody's opinion about something that happened a long time ago. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. All right. I got to get out of here.
Hey, well, have safe travels, and you know where to find us.
Hale's coming up next, and we'll talk about stuff next week. I'll be back. Hey, it'll be I'll be at a funeral tomorrow, but I'll be back on Monday. All right, see you guys.
There you go.
See you later.
Yeah, shoot. See you later.
We'll hit a timeout, and when we return, Hale McGranahan with the Big Spur will take us through the timeline of Nick Harbor and more thoughts on the 23 class for the Gamecocks.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Hey man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly. You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
This is freshman All-American Nicky Manwari of the Carolina Gamecocks, and you're listening to The Show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody, presented to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give John Barber and his team a call or shoot him an email, 803-446-4662, or John B. at expresssunrooms.com to set up an appointment to talk about how they can get some more sunshine into your life this summer. And we are joined now on the McKellar Enterprises guest line by none other than Owen! Hale McGranahan. How you doing, Hale? Good to see
What's
you,
up,
man.
fellas? How are y'all?
Well, I mean, we're probably not as sleepless as you are.
Not, I've actually slept okay here lately. The early signing period makes that more possible these days. There was a time though when sleep was hard to come by this time of year. That's for sure.
Man, there's no doubt. I mean, it's almost like yesterday. I don't know, Hale. I mean, is the Birch episode 3 years ago? Outside of that, there really hasn't been over the last few years a lot of dramatic stuff going on for the Gamecocks, right? On in this signing period on this day,
right? Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, Jamias Williams, he was. And I don't even remember when he was signing, if there was an early signing period. I can't remember exactly when it started. I think it might have started the following year. So, yeah. Even going back to assuming Jamias didn't have the early signing period, I mean, there just hadn't been a lot. Yeah, it's Jordan Birch and this fast dude who did his thing yesterday, and I don't know. Maybe we'll see some more next year. But I mean, the trend. Clearly is most of these guys get this thing knocked out in December and move on. So we'll see.
So how about I think I don't know about Phil. I'm sure Phil's got a handful of questions to ask you too. But I think one of the things that most people are really intrigued about. Hale, I'm not Hale McGranahan. Nobody has the sources of Hale McGranahan, but I've got a couple. And for a while, everything I kept hearing was they're in pretty good shape. Carolina's in pretty good shape here. Carolina's in pretty good shape, but we knew the Oregon visit was going to blow them away, and it did. And we knew there was going to probably be some new hurdles that came out of that, literally, because he's a track guy. But they cleared those. So if you can maybe take us back in your shoes a few days as this thing was kind of winding down. Maybe once he went to Oregon and the things that you began to kind of hear behind the scenes. That kind of led to what we saw with crystal ball picks and overnight flips and all this type of stuff. But just kind of take us down that timeline, if you can, leading up to the moment yesterday and what life was like for you, what you were seeing and hearing and reporting on, and how it kind of all unfolded.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the days leading up to his official visit to Oregon. And folks around here were still pretty confident that it was going to be South Carolina. And there was a lot of confidence internally that it was going to be South Carolina. Going back to last fall when he came in for the official visit, I think like most guys after official visits, there's some really good, strong feelings going on there, and even through the fall, kind of the consistent thing I was hearing from those folks was like, yeah, we think we're going to go get this guy. Like that they were pretty well aware that he wasn't going to be signing in December, and again, confidence that they could make it when February happened, and then going back to what I was started with talking about leading up to the Oregon visit, the days ahead of that, there was still some confidence, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, got to survive the weekend, and hope that the the good feelings from that don't weigh too heavily. And of course, in addition to all that, is like, well, it's Oregon, and when they're involved and when they want to be a player and want to be involved and want to get a guy, like they have the ability to do that. And that's been that way for many, many years now, before name, image, and likeness was a thing. Phil Knight, obviously, that all Nike speaks for itself. Leading up to it, there was, optimism and still some, I guess, coming out of it, some cautious optimism heading up until Wednesday. And as everybody I'm sure has heard and y'all have talked about on the show already today, I would imagine Shane Beamer laid it all out pretty clearly. And it sort of matches up with some of the reporting that was out there, whether it was from me or JC or Tony or Steve Wilfong or other folks on the internet. It's pretty clear how, based on what Shane said, that I was like a roller coaster. Some folks think that we in the media maybe over exaggerate things or put stuff out there to generate interest and clicks and all that. Well, I think a lot of folks also probably realize like that's recruiting. Like guys can change their minds, offers can be made, adjusted, whatever. So it truly, long answer, truly was a roller coaster going into yesterday.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, Hale, that gets, I think, often overlooked in these times where everybody's like, it's all money, money, money. Well, I was like, well, okay, so money is business, right? And business is at the very heart of it. People, doing business with people developing relationships with people. If you're a good salesperson, you're not selling the product you're selling yourself to this person in order for them to trust you enough. So I think that, what we witnessed yesterday was basically just a clinic in maybe sales 101 from Beamer and team, going up against, one of the most powerful brands in the nation, probably possibly the world when it comes to athletics and Nike, that, hey, when it all boils down, it's all people doing business with people, not necessarily people doing business with, businesses or entities. The relationships matter. And I think that, we should be proud to have something like that on our side. Now, that being said, when you look at this signing day and this class as a whole, Hill, how do you compare it to the most recent times that we've had with this program winning double-digit games a year, during the Spurrier era? Are there shades of that in this building? Is he kind of ahead of schedule when it comes to bringing in talent like that? And, just what's your perspective, like class over class?
Yeah. Phil, I can't really speak too much to like the specific classes and who was in which class during the Spurrier era. Obviously, I'm familiar with who came in, during that general time frame. But as far as 2008 versus 2009, 10, whatever, I don't have that working knowledge since I was covering the other team in the state at that point. And it's been so long ago, like I kind of forget how those things run together. But sort of to answer the other part of your question, I guess, is it seems like, yeah, they are ahead of schedule. I mean, the first season doing what they did, going 7-6 with the bowl win, obviously that was beyond the expectations that most reasonable folks had, right? So year two, clearly, I mean, you put those two wins from the end of that season up against any two consecutive wins since I've been covering the team since 2016, it's not even close. Like those two wins are better than any one win Will Muschamp had at South Carolina. I can't speak again to the consecutive wins like from the Spurrier era, but obviously some of those wins over Clemson back in those days were pretty significant as well. Either way, I think it's ahead of schedule for sure. And when you look at this 2023 class individually, I keep going back to the trenches, man. It's offense, defense, both sides of the ball. They got some important pieces, in-state guys who are really good and could be even better if things go the way they can and in some cases should. That this could be a special group. Then haven't even touched on Grayson Howard, the guy who I've called the mayor for the last 8 months. Or Jalen Kilgore, the guy who I really, really liked, or Makari Swain, or Lenore Sellers. I mean, guy had one of the best senior seasons of any quarterback in the country, arguably the best individual season by a quarterback in the state of South Carolina in the history of high school football in the state. It goes on. I mean, there are other guys who I could mention too. I mean, the skill positions have some intrigues on offense with Dontavius Braswell and some of those receivers. So It's an exciting class to look at and to think what could be down the road with a lot of these guys in 2 or 3 years, if not sooner.
Hale McGranahan with the Big Spur, 12:33 on this. When is Groundhog Day? Is today Groundhog Day?
It's today. It's today.
It is, yes.
Is today Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
I got to watch Groundhog Day. It's one of the greatest movies ever. I thought that it was today. Okay, well, happy Groundhog Day. Hale, I hope you found your shadow. So how about this?
I stepped outside first. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I think
still in the burrow.
He's kind of looking back behind him there, looking at his lighting. I think that people looked at it, they okay, we're in 2023. Well, Shane Beamer has been here for 3 years, and they said no. Shane Beamer's been here for almost 26 months. There's 12 months in a year, so that's 2 years that he's been here, Hale. And what you're seeing right now, what they just did with this class, okay, not just how they finished with Harbor and Elijah Caldwell from beautiful Rock Thrill, South Carolina, played for one of the great coaches and funniest dudes ever, Paige Walford. But everything else that's in this class, from in the state, how well they've recruited in the state, the Delmarva area, and Florida, Georgia, you name it. I mean, they've really stretched their tentacles here. And now we see the start they've got on 24, and it is unbelievable, and it's about to get a lot better. So in 2 years' time, this whole thing has changed. How would you respond to that? Like 2 years ago, how did you – I mean, you cover recruiting. So does this correlate with what you thought they could do? Did you see this and watching the game plan kind of unfold? Like, kind of walk us through what Shane Beamer is doing here now, literally in only 2 seasons at South Carolina.
No. And I say this, and I meant no offense to Shane Beamer then or now, especially now that I've seen some results. I mean, first ever head coaching job for a guy who never been a coordinator. I was in I got to see it mode. I wasn't buying into the excitement and hype and all those feel good things that got a lot of folks excited and optimistic about Shane Beamer taking over as the head coach at South Carolina. I just, right or wrong, and clearly I was wrong at that point. I had to see it, man. Like I wasn't going to sit here and say like, oh, well, I think they can win 7 or 8 games in each of the first 2 seasons. Like if they were just making bowls, I'd have been like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like good start. But like, I don't want to say I didn't have low expectations. I did. I just didn't know what to think. Like it was hard for me to sit there and be like, yeah, it's going to work, or no, it's not. I needed to see it. And when you look at who we hired at offensive coordinator, and not to get too down that road,
sure,
never heard of the guy who had not much of a track record. And, there were some issues within the roster that they needed to address, and didn't really have a recruiting class to build on coming in. And they kind of piecemealed it together through the transfer portal. And it was, I don't know, it was just hard for me to feel any kind of strong conviction one way or the other, I guess is what I'm trying to say, JB.
So what have you learned in covering, we'll just say in this state, because the whole recruiting in the state of South Carolina is totally flipped in favor of the Gamecocks. Clemson, they're about to be shut out again in this state for the top players in it. And as you talk to prospects and as you talk to coaches who coach these prospects, what have you learned about South Carolina's strategy the last couple of years and how they have been able to turn this thing over to where, I mean, they might be getting another kid here before long from the upstate who was all but sewn up as a Clemson Tiger. These guys they won 2 national championships not long ago. They're only 100 miles away. And it just seemingly doesn't matter. People are excited about what's going on in Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and try to paint the picture too much of like Clemson's loss of state. I don't think they have. I mean, if Blake Franks does sign with South Carolina, that's just because South Carolina straight up beat them. It's not an indictment of anything against Clemson. I mean, it's more of a credit to South Carolina. Like, and I'm sure there are probably some Clemson fans who, if that does happen, are going to be pissed, and rightfully so. But I would say that's more of a product of South Carolina just straight up winning. I mean, we don't have to look back too far to see what Clemson was able to do with a guy like Antonio Williams and come in at the last minute and offer him and get him on the boat. And that was always an offer we wanted. And there's always going to be kids in this state who dream of playing for Clemson. And
sure,
if they get the opportunity to, they will. And, maybe I'm wrong. Like Blake Franks was one of those kids who grew up a Clemson fan. I mean, if you think about, he's 16, 17 years old. So for the 10 years or so, however long since he's been able to look at a football game and say what teams are on the screen, like he's been watching Clemson win a lot. So South Carolina has done a lot to sort of change the narrative. Winning that game was big. Beating Tennessee was big too. Like you got to have some results at
Helps
some
to
point.
win games. Yeah,
you got to have some results at some point. You can't just keep sounding like, hey, we need you guys to come in and help us do it. Like at some point, you got to say, be able to say like, hey, we need you to help these guys who have taken us to this level. Well, you can help us get to another level. Like it's got to keep building, and I think that we're starting to see that obviously with again the results and I guess to sort of answer what you're also asking about, JB, in my opinion, from what I've heard and seen and come to understand is the staff under Shane Beamer has certainly prioritized the state. They left no stone unturned. They were really aggressive that way in that summer of 2021, spring and summer of 2021, and wanting to hear going into high schools or talking to high school coaches, I guess, and saying, I don't care if this guy doesn't have a single SEC, ACC offer. I don't care if you don't think he deserves to have an offer from us. Just let me hear about him. Like, we want to know about your best players. So it kind of started there where they were letting coaches know, like, hey, we're serious about wanting to hear about your guys, and we'll take a look at them. And if we think they're good enough, like, we'll offer them, but we got to know they're good enough. Like, and that's been reinforced to me recently as yesterday, talking about an in-state guy who doesn't have an offer from South Carolina in the 2024 class. Like, they want to offer when they offer a guy from South Carolina, it's an offer. Like, the guy can commit, they want him. And granted, Clemson sort of does the same thing that way, but I think just the new energy helps. Having coaches who are focused on being closer to home, like that's an emphasis, and it hadn't really been a thing for Clemson the last 5, 6, 7 years. And even though they can go offer a guy like Antonio Williams or even Jarvis Green at the last minute, the other guy from Dutch Fork, I mean, they can still do that to a degree, but not quite the same degree as maybe they once could. And with South Carolina's run of success, it makes things a little bit harder when you try to talk about that sort of head-to-head matchup, I guess.
I do like that running back from Dutch Fork. I think he's got a chance to be a pretty good player. So, well, Hale does. Oh, Hale doesn't. Oh.
He's okay.
Hale just saw his shadow. He's, he's
I like the guy South Carolina got better.
I do too. It's interesting you bring that up, and I know we're probably got just a few more minutes with you, Hale, before we got to hit a quick timeout. But I talked to Denny about him after he committed. Denny McDaniel, who's the head coach at Stratford, and Denny, I mean, come on, right? I mean, let's be honest. It's very rare that head coaches are going to say, "Well, he ain't worth a crap." Yeah, you don't want him. He ain't gonna do anything for you. It's a little bit different when you've known a head coach for 22 years, and you can go in and say, "Tell me about him." So I'll just say, if there was something that probably didn't need to be said, I just wouldn't talk about it. That wasn't the case here. This young man is transferring in from Newberry. They offered him for a reason. They expect him to come play, and I think he will, based on what I've been told by members of the staff and his old coach. What do you hear?
Yeah, Mario Anderson, the Newberry guy who, he was one of those guys when I look back at his highlights, I was like, while he was sort of being recruited out of the portal, looked at his high school highlights and I was like, man, first of all, I'm kind of kicking myself for not writing more about the guy and just trying to talk more about him from a, in-state recruiting perspective, regardless of whether or not South Carolina was in on him. Cause I watched the highlights and I was like, damn, what was everybody missing? Like whether it was the South Carolina staff or whoever else at the Power 5 level, much less FCS, 1AA, whatever you want to call it level. Like, man, a lot of people missed on that guy. And when you look at the production he had at Newberry, it was damn good. There's some folks out there who probably like roll their eyes when they hear us saying a guy from Newberry is transferring to South Carolina. But if you look at the production that he had there and just pretended the highlights you were watching from when he was at Newberry or from a junior college or even a high school, which are obviously lower levels than Division II, I think most people would probably be pretty fired up. Like maybe he doesn't have stars next to his name. Maybe they would have just been 3 stars, but I think you probably wouldn't have been hearing people saying, oh, well, he played at Stratford. Why didn't he stay at Somerville? He should have. If he'd stayed at Somerville, maybe we'd be more excited about him. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it would have worked if that made up scenario was reality. But he's an intriguing player, and if you look at the production that he's going to be asked to help provide or pick up that was left from last year, it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that he could match that or even exceed it by a little bit.
Well, that's a good point. You got anything, Phil? I got one final one. You got anything for?
No, I was just more to the Anderson thing is just like, there's guys like him, that stay in smaller schools like that all the time who don't get an opportunity to showcase that talent at the Power 5 level who make it to the league all the time. So it's
absolutely,
you can't just dismiss a guy like that just because he's from Newberry.
You're 100% correct. We see it all the time in the NFL. Some guy runs 60 yards for a touchdown. You go, who? What? He's from where? Grand Valley State. Where the hell is Grand Valley State?
Especially at that position, running back, where Mike and Kyle Shanahan have made careers off of who the hell is he running for 1,000 yards? Like, it happens all over the place.
I agree. Running backs turn. I mean, that's why they don't get drafted in the first round anymore. They're kind of a dime a dozen. They're products of the system. If you get them in the right system, if they're the right player for the right system, they're going to have some success. All right. So tomorrow, more than likely, big news coming for South Carolina in-state recruiting. Mazio Bennett's even tweeted he's going to say something tomorrow at noon. And we kind of know the drill here. People should feel pretty good about this. I think you've said that plenty. Tony said that plenty. JC said that plenty. So hopefully it kind of works out that way. Beyond that, though, Hale, there are a couple of other big names in this state that at some point in time in the future will be announcing. And then beyond that, I don't know what the hell's going on out there. So what is going on out there after the Mazio Bennett announcement tomorrow for Carolina to keep track of in recruiting?
Yeah, the guy we talked about earlier, Blake Franks, his teammates from Greenville High. He doesn't have a date set. It could be sometime this month. That's sort of what he's talked about recently on the record with folks. And it could be happening. His mom's birthday is next week, so there might be something connected to that. And a lot of guys, as we probably know if we follow recruiting enough, that a lot of guys like to do stuff like that on a loved one's birthday or what have you. So maybe he'll do that if he's ready. Josiah Thompson is the other uncommitted in-state offensive lineman who I don't know if he's quite ready to do something this month, but there's some thought that it could be at some point this spring when he makes a decision, and a lot of crystal balls in for him to South Carolina, and guy who the Gamecocks have been all over since day one, literally since this staff got to South Carolina, they've been recruiting the hell, or as best they can, recruit a guy who was a freshman in high school at the time, and he's probably been to South Carolina more times than every other school that he's visited combined, like Cam Pringle, but probably more so. And he's from Dillon, which has always been kind to South Carolina. So yeah, if you can get all three of those guys in this class between now and whenever, whether it's this time next year or December of this year, what have you, that's a pretty good start, I would say, guys. Right? That's a good place to build from.
To just be outstanding. All pretty much 4-star guys, and that would be something. It was neat yesterday to hear Nick Harbor also say, well, I think we'll just make the D.C. area the new Carolina. So we'll see who he can bring with him because they are signing them out in there. I'm sure Michael Oxley and Maryland love that. After the Jay-Sean Barham situation, Carolina hadn't looked back. They've been taking them all from that area. So, all right, Hale. Well, you enjoy your Groundhog Day and whatever else you plan on doing.
Yeah, appreciate it. Y'all do the same.
It's back there somewhere.
Hey, really, really outstanding work always. Thank you, man. You're so good at what you do. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you saying that, and welcome to your gig with these guys on the show.
I know I've been drinking heavily the last 2 nights. This is what these guys do to me. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say mix in a water or not. We'll have to consult with Mike Uva about that.
But, I don't know. We may bleep that in post.
Yeah, okay. Or edit it out, one or the other.
Yeah. Mix it a beep. Yeah. That's right.
All right, fellas.
Thanks, Hale. See ya.
Thanks, Hale.
All right, we're way past due. So, Phil, we'll hit the final quick timeout, and then we'll come back. We've got some final stuff to get to, including now a leading candidate for the offensive coordinator position at Alabama. If you haven't heard, it is a big name. So we'll give you that, and Phil will give you your word of the day before we leave. I'm just kidding. Be right back.
I want you to take me to Disney World.
Horror. Calm down. JC is here. As y'all know, folks, the family and I have visited Disney World many times, but it can be overwhelming, especially if it's your first time going to the most magical place on earth. I highly recommend wherethisroadleads.com and my friend Cherie, a certified Disney vacation planner. That's right. The mouse has given her permission to book your family vacation hassle-free. You don't know where to go, don't know where to stay, don't know where to eat, don't know what to do. It can be overwhelming. So get on wherethisroadleads.com and schedule your free consultation right now. She can help you out. The prices are very reasonable. You don't pay any extra fees. In fact, she's much more reasonable maybe than booking it straight through Disney. So for your next Disney vacation, or, more likely your first, so you don't panic, go to wherethisroadleads.com and talk to Cherie, certified Disney vacation planner, a partner of Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Hey folks, JC here. I've told you about Nana's Porch over and over again. They sponsor our chat box on the show. Don't take my word for it, though. I wanted you to hear from Gamecock pitcher Noah Hall about our sponsor, Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. Go there, food truck, catering, whatever you need. Take it away, Noah.
What's up, Gamecock fans? This is pitcher Noah Hall. If you want some delicious food for your event, I suggest visiting nanasporch.com today to find out what they all have to offer. It's really good Southern cuisine based out of Charlotte, my hometown. I hope you guys go check it out. Go Cox and go Nanas.
This is Braylon Wimmer, South Carolina Gamecock Baseball, and you are listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Go Cox!
We are back, everybody. Miscommunication there. I thought you were bringing us back in, but Inside the Gamecocks, the show is back. here.
Yeah.
With and wouldn't to think we brought him in for more professionalism.
Well,
the word of the day is repose, as in, we are in a state of repose right now, a nice state of tranquility for the Gamecock Nation after having a successful dual signing day. I mean, we won on the first one on the major one here. I still consider this one the major one, Jamie. I know it's not. I know the first one now is bigger and badder, but for me, the February signing day is still traditional. I'm just, one of those guys, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly miss it. I miss what it was. It was fun because if you go back and just remember all the little nuances about it, it wasn't just it was the wild stuff is what really attracted the nation to it. That's why they started building all these national signing. I mean, there was a point in time where ESPNU was doing like 8, 9, and then they got up to 12 hours worth of coverage. They would come on at 7 a.m. They'd go to 7 o'clock at night, and then they just rerun the dang thing.
Right.
And you would, you'd see a kid who would get up there and throw his hat across the room, and then he'd commit to another guy or whatever it was. So, yeah, those were the good days. This year, the drama, we'll look back on it as fun. It probably wasn't fun for Shane as things unfolded at all, and it's only fun because they got him. If they didn't, we would say, yeah, don't like that anymore. But it was good for Carolina. Speaking of good, you can have your house painted good, or you could have your house or your fence or your deck or your rooms or whatever it is actually painted great by a couple of painters. And look at their logo. It's got the Gamecock helmet on it because they are huge Gamecock fans. They're licensed and insured in South Carolina and in Georgia. They travel everywhere to do it. Doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Westminster, South Carolina. You could be in Rock Hill, South Carolina. You could be in Georgetown. You could be in Charleston. You could be in Orangeburg. You could be in the home of the Peaches, Utahville, South Carolina, wherever you want to be. If you've got something that needs to be painted, these are the cats you want to call to get a quote from. And I'll bet you it's going to be less than the quote that you've already gotten. If you haven't gotten one, go ahead and get one and then get this one. Trust me. I just got one from them. It's $2,000 under the last quote, $2,000. And they're excellent. The work they do is excellent. They stain, they paint, they'll paint cabinets, they'll stain fences, they'll stain decks, whatever it is. A couple of painters. And how about this? Call them at 803-522-6832, 803-522-6832, or just go to their Facebook page. You can contact them there too. They're working on the new website. You can send them photos and they'll give you a quote. That's what
I'd like to hear that they work here in the upstate too, JB. That's
absolutely
awesome.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They're absolutely fantastic. And so they paint us black every day, garnet and black. That is a couple of painters right here in South Carolina since 2016. Tommy Reese, by the way, at Notre Dame, Phil, is the leading candidate according to reports. Chris Lowe is one of the main guys that I follow, and Chris Lowe is reporting that Tommy Reese, the OC at Notre Dame, who South Carolina just competed against in the bowl game, is the leading candidate to take on Bill O'Brien's role at Alabama. Interesting.
That's not good if you're a Notre Dame fan, because I think he's an integral part of that team up there. I mean, I don't know what who's the transfer quarterback they just pulled too? It was
the kid from Sam Hartman from Wake Forest.
Yeah, it's a Hartman. Yeah. I wonder how much impact that'll have, and whether or not he's going to start to regret his decision to gold dome it.
Well, that certainly would be interesting. I mean, if you're Tommy Reese and you are targeted by Saban, I really don't blame you for at least taking it all the way to the end to see if you really want to do it or not, because, I mean, every offensive coordinator that works under Nick, it all kind of works out for him. And, you know, if he wants to be a head coach, he's probably not going to be the head coach at Notre Dame in the very near future. So this might be a pretty good move for him to go on and do that. So we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. He's a good recruiter too, which would be another guy for the SEC to have to contend with, in addition to, you know, Nick Saban and the 13 top 100 players they signed this year.
Yeah, right.
Which is just unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable. what
It
they
is.
were able to do.
Still, I mean, just keep rolling. Doesn't matter. I mean, NIL, all this other stuff. Alabama's like, no, we do it our way and it works, and we're going to continue to do it our way. And
yeah,
you're all going to be chasing us from the recruiting standpoint.
That's exactly right. And speaking of recruiting, if you haven't looked at the Big Spur yet today, new crystal balls are in for both Blake Franks and Josiah Thompson from Steve Wiltfong to come to South Carolina. So that is something in the near future we should probably keep an eye on. And Mazio Bennett tomorrow at noon, Phil will make an announcement. We will be on the air. JC will not be with us tomorrow. So I do think we'll have some other things planned for programming tomorrow that hopefully you'll enjoy there. But we'll be on when he does commit. And if it is to South Carolina, which is expected to be at this point in time, certainly we'll have plenty of reaction and we'll get all of your comments. I will add, I'm at fault. People can blame me. The last couple of days, Phil, you and JC and myself, it's my fault that we have not been as engaged with the Nana's Porch chat box because I can ramble on from time to time. So we'll make sure that we get more and more of your stuff in here and moving forward because we certainly want to do that. And I'll say this too, kind of my parting shot. One of the things that I used to always do at ESPN, and certainly when Darren and I had JB in Goldwater, was we would daily give you the National Day calendar. So we all know it's pretty fun if you actually keep up with it. You would be shocked at some of the days that are actually on the calendar. And I know that it's time to go. But in addition to celebrating groundhogs today, Phil, it is also National Tater Tot Day.
Oh.
One of the great man-made foods of all time.
That's funny. I love that. Yeah, tater tots, man. Very versatile food. Yeah,
absolutely.
Just as versatile as some hash browns there. It's like the best thing.
Load them up with ranch and cheese and bacon and grab a fork and dig in to your tater tots to celebrate the groundhog and his seeing. He did see a shadow, I saw somebody said, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Punxsutawney Phil. But out there, there's a southern one, isn't there, that people down here put more steak into? What is that?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
It's just like General Beauregard something.
Yeah, General Beauregard. That's right. Yeah. Damn Phil's for the Yankees.
I woke up and scared myself and by looking in the mirror at my reflection. I don't know if that is worth anything in the mirror, but yeah.
6 more weeks of this. Oh no.
We'd be lucky to get 6 more weeks of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, we're all but out of time. JC is on the road traveling to the great state of South Carolina. And the loss of a loved one. Thanks to both Chris Phillips and Hale McGranahan for popping in today in our programming. And as always, thanks to all of you. But most importantly, thanks to the guy that steers the ship around here. That's Phil Mullinax for being kind enough to let me be a part of this craziness every day until 1 o'clock. With that said, we're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 on Inside the Gamecocks.